The dance.
He's like spinning out around the corners.
InShalla and Ashe. I should really get myself some intro music. I always have to wait for YouTube to connect, so it's always a thing. But welcome to the Daily Snippet. It is I, Tanya D, holistic medium and subtle energy surgeon, and it is a magical Monday. It's November 15th, 2021, and the earth is not happy in my village. However, I've got this fern gully project. It's making a mess in the animal village. My red-tailed hawk probably lost his condo, and the owl, well, hopefully found a new little cove. So when the laws of man change for the good of the people or the growth, they kind of redo the laws to make it work. And I wonder who really gets this payout. But it happens to be at the small level, city level as well. Don't know why I brought that out, but here we are. Enough of that little rabbit hole, just staying optimistic. So it's a wonderful day. We got the waters of clarity. We're sitting at these cross threads of the spiritual timeline. They actually look pretty cool. Not sure how I would even explain them. They're like these clear, silvery, white, effervescent kind of cable, kind of tubing kind of situations. And I don't really kind of know, but that's kind of what it feels like. But we have these 2 points beaconing forward in our thought paralysis, or maybe it's not paralyzed, between a destiny that's more heartfelt and also our beliefs. So the future might be within reach, but hold your inside voice in your container. The energy of today is actually in the elemental realm. It's similar to yesterday, except it's more of this very yin day. Yesterday was a bit more balanced. It had more yang and the yin, but we actually have a lot of yin energy today. It's kind of a horseshoe effect. We only have yang water with the pig. So really go inward with your voice. We have this Yin Fire Rabbit day, a ding maul. So this inner fire and the inner vitality, it's like this inner transformation and this passion. And again, we have the flow, but our fire is really this lonely element. All the other elements are kind of hidden in the branches and the stems, or in the branches, hidden in the branches. The stems are the heavens, but the branches are the earth plane. But we don't have any fire. There's not anything hidden down there in the branches or the pillars. So it's really a great magical day to just sit and contemplate your inner passion, to kind of bring it out and move it forward. The flow it actually goes from the pig branch in the month to the day branch wood, the rabbit, and then up to the stem, the fire stem to the earth, and then finishes off over at the metal. So it really is a day to go inward and light a candle, honor your inner fire, which would also be your spirit and also your earthly heart. So there's no need to really say much. Just keep your thoughts to yourself in your own personal container. Since we're in our mental mind today, so any kind of movement or exercise really is a tool to use, because when we do an activity, it really kind of forces our mind to kind of shut down and not get so cosmically cluttered, if you will. And then it grounds our nervous system, which is actually that energy of wood is our nervous system. It's vitality. Fire is more like red blood circulation, our heart, and all of spirit. It's super cool. But movement gives our mind a pause, an energetic pause. So we're kind of taking the focus away from those thoughts, especially if they're like firing up. So if you spend too much time in your own monkey mind, really move around. I tell my son all the time to move around. He's going to feel better. I just know he's going to, because I understand these energetics. But we all could really use some more movement, really, though, right? So sitting around thinking can be grueling on our spirit. So take time. So your mind out into the future, you can actually flow it. And I actually started writing a novel, a series a few years ago about an alternate reality, a future world, an inner knowing. I actually manifested some of the story in the physical world. So I quit writing it. So that's actually the title of the show today, Evanesq and the Universe Moved You. I was going to do like a series of these novels, but I was having a hard time finding somebody to help me edit, blah, blah, blah. Um, so with all of that, words really have power, right? So this is all about feeling those waves and the resonation, how they flow. And do you believe it in your heart center, in your heart's content? Then you're going to have this inner knowingness, and this knowing then lights up our solar plexus. So it's this combination of ingredients of what we believe with our heart, holding the line, holding the truth, the authentic truth. And then we have a backup system, an inner backup like a computer, sitting out in the ethers, if you will. So kind of put your ideas in your perspective or a protected etheric sphere, if you will, like your library in the sky, and kind of embrace the vision for the future that you want to create manifest, to make like a vision manifest instead of like a vision quest, a vision manifest. Sometimes we have to kind of stop and start, adjust and tweak things. My website, one of them is kind of currently down right now because a little glitch in the mainframe. So you really just have to, adjust, tweak, be patient, take the pause for that sphere to hold space. Even the hardest thing for humans to do is to create boundaries and even hold them with integrity and put them into place. Just paying attention, if you will, in your barometer to how like time and space and your effervescent boundaries, because they're kind of fluid, how they're merging into the galactic future. Do they feel safe? Do you trust the message? Do you need to step away a little bit, kind of let it percolate, like you're doing that outdoor coffee, I'm thinking of like outdoor coffee on the fire pit, percolating, old school style. Or do you need to put more time and effort into the soil to create that sacred space, that sacred container? So really just be aware, that inner awareness of what vision pops in today, and also the feelings and beliefs that are in support of it. I kind of am a super mind. I really can't talk as fast as I feel and I sense. It's truly a thing. I often sit on my hands just to tune in frequencies. So you might feel as if your mind is really recalibrating the galactic picture of what the day-to-day routine looks like, the quality of your living style. The heart's objective is kind of higher joy, it's better health, but the vision itself has to be something that your heart truly believes in. It's like a truth barometer in your heart syncing together. So feelings are kind of the barometer. They're going to verify. I kind of see that as like a verified website, how you get verified. But everything top to bottom kind of gets through this barometer, verified through this channel, the emotional channel. So it's the waves of emotions, and kind of fill into those babies, because our mind is really online. So all things in relationship to our mind, computers, writing, ideas, talking, the intellect, the mind, even what you read or put into your mind by reading, or what you watch, like me on my snippet, you're watching me, but you really have the ability to narrow it in and be like razor sharp, fine tuning the ideas that are coming in. So really take advantage of the master mind today. It's like whipping things. It's like whipping its sauce, but it's that beacon. It's lit up. It's on that juice. So our solar plexus being online, and our mental acuity or our mental clarity, all things mindful, really. So we have the sacral, we have the shaman's portal. So you could read the library in the sky, actually, if you feel like breathing into your emotional channel, the sacral, and bringing up those waves to the solar plexus, and then releasing it out through the shaman's portal. It's kind of going to go galactic, cosmic galactic, if you will, and just ask for one future vision from your personal book of life. We all have a book of life in that portal. So there's no need to really look at the shadows or the Akashic, really, because we're actually dissipating all of those this weekend through this amazing lunar eclipse in Taurus. So super excited about that. So the yellows and the oranges, I'm seeing the brightest, most intense yellows and oranges, and then kind of swish out into the shaman's portal and see what future insights really come in. And the moon herself, the beautiful moon, she's in the middle phases of Aries as she's heading into this Taurus full moon. So actions and emotions are in line. So people are going to be acting out their emotions, especially if they have an Aries moon. It's a thing. I've witnessed it a plethora of times. So just know if some people are acting out, you might be curious if they have an Aries moon. It's just kind of what they do. And it really is also a day to decide to heal. So you might be creating something that was created upon or based upon a wounded ego, a wounded aspect. I just interviewed a gentleman. I've got to fix my meet me for coffee, but ego, he said, etching God out, which I thought was kind of curious. So, when we do that, we can utilize and tweak and make things richer and fuller and having like a bounty way above like the soul capital level and really be the queen that you are and make her smile inside and out. And I actually have a meditation called the inner smile too. So just saying that kind of lights you up, makes you smile. But it's time to really open the door to an alternative universe where the truth comes out of that closet, the cobwebs, right? And we all know that something is a bit fishy in those threads, but we're not in the ethers only. Something really gets unveiled today. So kind of feel into that. I can't say I really watch the mainstream narrative. I don't really know what's happening there, but kind of feel into it. But I would be bringing in the sound of fire today, the ha sound. It kind of feels like a breathy dragon, right? Ha. And then after you do a few ha's, really do the sound of the sacral to release through the portal, the vam, and that's just clearing out your emotions that aren't yours and aren't serving you. Then send sound in through the crown down to the solar plexus, the ram. So that's kind of a guttural tonality. You could use the shade of yellow if you want, and also the shade of orange. Bring them both like down through the crown to the solar plexus and then out again through the shaman's portal. But also remember to ask for a vision of your future that you would like to be clear about or have an inner knowing about. And also feel into your heart to know if you believe it to be true, because your heart's not going to lie to you. It never does. Feelings don't lie either. So those are the two cascaders. However, the stone of the day, I have alexandrite. So this is like a magical stone all in itself. It was actually first discovered in Russia's Ural Mountains. So it's also a gemstone with this incandescent light that helps it change color in different lights. It actually means good luck and good fortune. I actually have an alexandrite gifted by my mother and father. I should wear it, just saying that out loud. But there's so much wild and regal energy that's stashed inside of this stone. It was first dug out of those Ural Mountains in the 19th century, and everybody was just smitten with this rare gemstone that seemed to flash with different shades. Sometimes it would appear purplish red, and other times it would just ripple to blues and greens. So this color change certainly makes this stone just stand out. And it was actually celebrated and named after the Tsar, Alexander II, as it was first discovered on his birthday. So that there tells its own story. But the tell of its own unearthing is really fascinating. The Ural Mountains was home to an emerald mine, and the workers were digging through, collecting the radiant green gemstones. And the haul of the day was carried back to camp, and beside the flickering firelight, some of the stones started to shine with this deep red color. And as the dawn dwindled in, the stones returned to their hue of green, and the miners actually believed that there must be some magic stashed within them. So I believe that true, right? What stone doesn't have a little magic or a little being in there? But those stones, of course, were the alexandrite. And as they flashed with the shades of this imperialist, like Russia, it actually became known as the signature stone of Russia. So it holds a mixture of different elements beneath its surface, which is why it has such a strange and also fascinating kind of color scheme. The chromium actually brings the blue and the green and also the elements of the titanium and the iron lend in that lush ruby red shade. But alexandrite is still considered a rare gem, although it's also been found in Sri Lanka, Brazil, Madagascar, Tanzania, Zimbabwe. But it's one of the hardest gemstones out there. Um, on the scale of hardness, it's 8.5 on the Mohs hardness scale. But it's really a stone of fortune, luck, embracing change. Just like the gem itself, it switches shades in the light, and it reminds us of the importance of being balanced and open to all of the emotions that we actually hold within ourselves. So it's this stone of joy and grace and glory. But rather than just grant you the joy, alexandrite goes even deeper, encouraging us to learn to rekindle or kindle our own fires of pleasure, laughter, and the ability to see the beauty in every situation. It's all about this cleansing energy. It shifts our self-esteem. It also, with the changing colors, it suggests that embracing every bright angle of your beingness. So kind of take a look in all the ways in which alexandrite keeps your body, your mind, and your soul literally in check. And it has big healing energy when it comes to our bodies. So it's an amazing talisman to keep close to you when you are recovering from an illness or a long-term ailment. It really has the power to restore the body back to health. And it also encourages healthy blood circulation and cleansing of the internal organs as well. It's said to be especially beneficial for the pancreas and the spleen, and excellent for just detoxing the body of all chemicals and impurities as well. As far as emotional healing, get ready to raise your flag of self-esteem and just welcome in a whole lot more joy into your world with these alexandrite stones. So this shape-shifting gem can assist us to climb the ladder of emotional maturity, process our feelings, find pleasure along the way. So if you have like low self-esteem that's weighing you down and you feel like you don't have the willpower to make the decisions that really positively affect our life, we can bring in alexandrite, and it changes all of that as it helps us to find balance between the emotional and the rational, the mind. So it's just this perfect formula of fabulous decision making, but it's also the stone of love and inner wealth, like inner wealth, not financial, abundant, worldly kind of stuff. But it helps us to clear the internal pathway of debris so we can open up and be ready to receive all that comes our way. So if you've been feeling distracted, lost, or kind of mired in the muddy banks of life, this stone can actually get you back on track. But it also makes for a gorgeous guardian stone, as it certainly always has the best interests at heart. It's almost like alexandrite really wants our soul to be light and free, which is why it does all that it can to get us there, along with, this uprising and the lashings of joy and emotional balance and physical strength. It's really all about the spirit too. So this gem just brims with magnetism, pulling awesome things into our orbit, but it also works as a heart center cleanser, and it helps to entangle any knots that have been holding our heart rigid in place. It's like having rigid boundaries. So when our hearts are cleared and pure and open, we can actually love more freely and more full and live in the light of our own beingness without fear. So along with the heart center, alexandrite likes to actually take things higher. It's also a crown center, our intuition beacon, spiritual connector, cleanser as well. And our crown center is all about the bigger picture thinking and leaping into different levels of spirituality, which is awesome. It's actually linked to the sign of Gemini, and actually we have a Gemini energy today, so that's kind of why I picked that. And now for the cards of the day. This is going to get lengthy, I'm telling you. I'm already at 20 minutes. Love myself. Here we go. Woo! This little guy is called Gluminous Loom of all things. So I went with my fairy deck, which I love the fairies. God knows me, right? But he's part of the fairy challengers that bring us face to face with our fears and our denials, the traumas, the inside ones, insecurities, delusions, confusions, that kind of things. But they're challengers for a reason, so don't take that down the rabbit hole. But they're also metaphorically speaking, they kind of, they're going to be the one that sticks out a foot in front of us to see if we're paying attention to where we're going. They test our alert signals, our awareness, our knowledge, insight, wisdom, all that kind of stuff. Even our own personal growth. And sometimes without these little beings, we become lazy. It's like having too much earth in your chart. The four pillars are too much of really, actually, no, it's just earth. Too much earth makes people really kind of lazy. They have to work at getting off the couch, seriously. But sometimes people often don't really realize that they're kind of blaming the other beings, something outside of them, for their own inner errors. But these fairies hope that we really do pass our tests, whatever they are, our lessons, whatever. But they like us to do that the first time around. Otherwise, they have to kind of do it again and again. So it's like you're stubbing your toe every day, not getting the memo. And they would actually prefer to do, fairies love to dance. They love the joy. They love the laughter. They're all about that. They're very light. So they'd rather be doing that in the moonlight. They're always wishing us good luck, actually, most of the time, actually. And also they kind of look forward to like celebrating the goodness and the juiciness and our successes over the challenges. But Glooming Doom here, self-pity is kind of the first step on the slippery, seductive kind of side towards our own self-destruction. He's similar to another fairy called the Soul Shrinker. So it's like this cruelty, malice, gossip, curses, distraction, but it's also blessings, the Soul Shrinker. So it might kind of seem odd to have such this seemingly lightweight challenger like Gloominess here. He's floating in space, or he feels that way when I look at him, and he's got orbs and whatnot around him and other things floating, if you can look. But him being right next to the Soul Shrinker, they're cousins. So, they have relations just like we do. But the Soul Shrinker observes the way we cursed others through energy and attitude, where Gloominess Doom observes the way that we curse ourselves. So in a way, thought, the mind, that part of us that he witnesses, because he can watch that, is worse than what the Soul Shrinker actually sees. So when we curse others through sending the energy of malice or ill will towards them, they have the ability to reject it, kind of send it back. I'm sorry, you can't see my hand. But however, when we curse ourselves to self-pity and self-destructive attitudes, there is little, if any, kind of resistance. And the curse, the message, words, that takes that immediate effect, and it actually continues to act in the thread lines until we really shift and change our attitude. So it's interesting I pulled this card because we're in a mind rapture kind of a day. But also, it's interesting how we can see at once, really, that the Soul Shrinker is kind of this ugly kind of appearing little being. But Gloomless Doom has this charm. He's got charm and a kind of weird attractiveness about him. He's actually super cute. I can't say I feel sorry for him. I just think he's super cute. He kind of looks a little sad and pitiful. But there's another side to him that you might see as well, where you feel this Gloominess Doom is like underrated, but he's really a helper. He can be there for us when no one else wants to be there or know, through that self or that state of self-pity when all things seem terrible and the whole world is out to get us or against us. So it's this important process. It's that part. And we all get down sometimes, we all kind of get down and heavy on ourselves, at least for a second, right? But you could say that we even need to compare those times when we feel good, the good stuff, the good and the good are the juicy. So Gloominess Doom is really ready, and he's willing to assist and help us kind of explore just how awful it all feels and just how bad it all is and how hard it's on us by what we are feelings, right? And what has made us feel like this in the first place. Like, where did that thread even come from? So it's important to really get to know our feelings and how we can possibly just let them go. If you don't, they're going to pile up in the first place. So our feelings need to be fully acknowledged. They also need to be understood and validated. or we just kind of tuck them away and we hide them out of sight until they kind of appear and bubble up again, and usually a different guise even. So this little character, Gloominous Doom, really he helps us to properly explore those gloomy feelings of doom so that we can literally be done with them. So it's important to really do that, right? So the ultimate test here, of course, is to take responsibility for ourselves and our attitudes, our behaviors, and to choose a path that's really life affirming, not life denying, not like muddling us up. So the sorrier we feel for ourselves, the worse our life becomes. So say that again. The sorrier we feel for ourselves, the worse our life becomes, right? So it's not the other way around. Self-pity really makes things worse, and we have a choice. So one, we have every moment as to whether we want to make our lives better or worse, and only we can really choose that for ourselves, our own beingness. So it's really time to face the fact that our attitudes and our beliefs about ourselves, our own selves, we might have learned them from others, but the others are not responsible for them in the here and in the now. We actually are. So if we choose self-pity and pessimism, being pessimistic, we make a choice that makes our lives actually worse. We literally go down the rabbit hole. Excuse me. So the fact that this card is in the beginning is this indication that it's really time when we have this understanding. We have like an understanding of the concept of what's happening. It's really important. It's a time when there is some sort of like crunch in on the situation that really kind of offers something, like an opportunity to notice or change any habits that are really self-destructive to our beingness. And if it is you yourself, you know what you need to do. But if it's somebody else, you might wish to kind of consider how you might support them in their opportunity for change. Can you make sure to give like some positive feedback at every appropriate time and space, opportunity? I just tell people all the time they're doing great, and it literally shifts the vibration. And just, refrain from nagging or scolding or complaining at them when they get it wrong, or, to me, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's just an opportunity for growth. These things actually kind of help, right? To shift the narrative, the story, the mind. Go for a walk, definitely. And then I've pulled this little guy before too. His name is Glancaner. I had a hard time spelling that in the show notes, but I pulled him before as well. He's part of the Fairy Challengers, but he's about the illusion, the delusion, the lust, when people project, but he's also about having clear sight. It's our third eye. So have you ever really noticed that when we really, 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 really want someone or something, we tend to see it without clear vision? So the object of our lust looks far less than glamorous, which should really tell us something right away, but usually it doesn't. So he goes by another name, Smooth Harry. It kind of reminds me of Clint Eastwood in the Harry Chronicles. I can't remember the name of the show, but that might just be a little illusion right there of his own. You can see his third eye there. It's almost like it's covered. So what's he really seeing? But he doesn't change the shape to tempt us. He does this with we do this with our own mental confusion and different paradoxes. So he simply just wears a mirror. That's kind of what that third eye thing is. It's a mirror in which we see our desires kind of temptingly displayed like a beacon. And he doesn't really try to fool us. It simply allows us to fool ourselves. Well, he might try just a little bit just to make the test a little bit more difficult. It's like, how bad do you really want it? After all, we can be more proud of passing a difficult test than an easy one, right? It's the magic on the other side. But Smooth Harry also, he appeals to our vanity. And the more we have of it, the easier his work kind of is. So a little flattery and we'll believe whatever he wants us to really swallow, especially since it's just what we want to swallow really anyway, right? So of all the fairy challengers, Smooth Harry is most likely to be the slyest. He's kind of sly like a fox, which I love foxes, but he practices a sort of emotional jujitsu, if you will, where he lets out our desires and they lead us actually to fall. And then we kind of rush ahead towards our vision of perfection. And all he needs to do is like step aside to one side away as we kind of cast ourselves out him. And then down we go, right? It's not fun, but maybe, perhaps we might kind of learn something from it. That's kind of the memo there. So it's not a good idea to make decisions when blinded by lust, whether it's lust for a person, a thing, an idea, because we need to pause and take our time before really making actual commitment. You kind of have to sit with the decision, the choice at hand. And we need to read kind of the fine print, check all the boxes, read it all, check out the foundations, get a mechanic to test a secondhand car you're going to buy, especially if we're considering buying something. We can refuse sometimes to let ourselves be rushed into it. So it really is holding the reins back and taking time to make sure it's really, really what we think it is. So if we are considered making a commitment to other people, we need to take our time and really get to know them a lot better. So this is another lesson in seeing the truth behind the beglamored surface. So in this case, it's us who we have cast the glamoring on. That's kind of the message of this card in all actuality, the glamoring of ourselves. And then I pulled the journeyman, which I pulled him before, but I also see that head upside down kind of looks, I don't know what I'm saying, kind of looks like a spaceship or a different head, I don't know. Just look at the card. But the journeyman, I pulled him upside down. He's part of the she. The she's are the people or the beings that live in the hills and the lords and the ladies of the realms of fairy. They're the old ones. Even when they're young, they're actually old. It's kind of Benjamin Button feeling. And they all dance. The she do the dance to kind of mediate the energies of the singers, the light beings, the energies from the watchers, I guess, if you would, the angels. It's like a whole nother dimension. But they bring them into manifestation through the worlds, through portals, right? And of course, they do this all just literally for the joy and the laughter, the pure joy, the pure dance. They have this alchemical kind of art, just knowing that it's the dance of life itself. Those are the treasures. These are the ones who create and nurture and build the worlds and all the little beings and the inhabitants, whatever that looks like. But they're also available to each and every one of us as guardians. I like them as guardians mostly. That's kind of how I see them. But they do this simply really for the pure joy. It's the laughter and just creating those frequent miracles as well. Kind of like the unseen, but oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened kind of stuff. The unexpected. So they've been even called gods and goddesses through time and space, but that's not really how they think of themselves. They're kind of juicy. They're really kind of the older, elder kind of race. They're kind of the forerunners. They're also known as the ancient ones. That's why I kind of associate them kind of with the watchers. And even in the mist of time, the early times, they weren't as developed as they are now through space and time. But now, like, they're wise and they're older, and they can see far into the future, and also be here in the now. But part of our contact with them is really is to teach us to be more like them, to kind of give us otherworldly role models for being able to need the surface to get far out into the future. But with the journeyman, this is like adventure, it's independence, it's polishing of our skills and our travel. So all of the great ones, it's the saints and the Bodhisattvas and all of those who are healed by the light of spirit, spiritual light. They've all been on this journey, and they went into the wilderness, stepping in like fools off of a safer path into the waiting hands of their own gods and goddesses, just trusting the magic on the other side. So this is a journey of life. It's like this going nomadic, and it begins, in this ignorant trust. It passes through all the doubts and the fears and the ups and the downs, and probably even all of the delusions and certainly all of the confusions. But through that That's where we learn slowly, sometimes painfully, a new kind of trust. So, you have to like trust in the process, kind of detaching from the goal. So, what our young little journeyman, bless him, he's stepping out on his own journey of life. He's glowing, even though he's upside down, but he's optimistic, he's enthusiastic. Even his toes are shining bright. So is his hair. He's like glimmering in his ownness. He's cute. He's also smart. He's educated. He's completed the basic apprenticeship for his crafts and his magic, but he hasn't yet achieved the mastery of it. So to do this, he has to leave the protection of his master and step out into the path as this independent, kind of magical, little mystical being. Um, so he's really testing himself within his own knowledge in the world, and he hopes to achieve the master status. Um, he knows a lot, but these are just basic skills. He's a journeyman, right? The basics, but he probably knows a lot less than he thinks. So it's about learning skills of survival, safety, persuading, selling, buying, making new friends, and just kind of going out into life. Um, Stuff like that. But he also has these childlike wonder qualities. He's lovely, he's playful, he's playing, he's balancing the ball, which is the moon on his stick, actually. It's upside down. But he adds this frequency where there's no constraints, there's no boundaries. He's just like free. And because he is magical, he doesn't actually put these limitations on himself. So he's able to really walk on air, walk on water, through the hills, all at the same time. He's still balancing the moon in the sky, even though it's an otherworldly sky. Sometimes I think that's what it looks like, opposing forces. Anyway, so he really doesn't have anybody looking over his shoulder. He's just out for the joyride, really. He's having some fun. He wants to take some chances, and just live life to the fullest and, learn, right? And this is how we learn. So he's confronting an aspect of himself or being confronted by the real world, but he's discovering that excuses aren't going to buy the bread, or the quality and integrity of your work and your actions are really what really counts. But he's been taught, and he's pretty well knows all of this already. He also sometimes he wears a mustache, hoping that it's going to make him look older. I'm not sure you can see that in the card. He's kind of got some fluff there on his upper lip. But he's also romantic. He has dreams. He wants to be a hero. And he wants to win a fairy princess. So he's just this innocent little being. And some of his dreams will come true, perhaps even all of them. So here we see this little innocent being walking trustfully into a situation for which he's really not fully prepared. And he really can't be fully prepared. None of us can, which is kind of the preparation, the groundwork to be tested by reality. He is innocent of previous and practical experiences of the path that he's treading on, or the realm of life that he's moving into. But this card could actually be called the Innocence Encounters Reality, which is by no means a bad thing. So he's got his own personal fairy godmother, as all we do, just out of sight again. As all fairy godmothers, they tend to be out of sight. But her expression is both kind of excitement and worry. Her hair's already turned white, whiter than it probably was before he even began this journey. The fear, white hair. Lack of kidney energy, but she's just keeping her wand fully charged. Matter of fact, I almost pulled out my wand just for fun, but she's watching him take this journey, and she's just watching him every step of the way. And everybody needs a little fairy godmother, right? From time to time, just we all need it. Good-natured innocence attracts these fairy guardians, and it attracts the helpful beings in all of the planes and all of the worlds and all of the existence. But it also might attract those who would abuse the innocence. But as long as our intentions are good, they're heartfelt, our guardians will offer great guidance and just open that door. So, we are really blessed and we're cared for if we allow ourselves to be. So the world is kind of before us. That's what it's saying with smiles, and the optimism and that, and the cheerfulness, and just the magic and the skills and having a fairy godmother. But he grows within us when we step bravely out into the unknown, which is kind of what's happening right now. Can't even believe I pulled these 3 cards. I know they seem gloomy, but they're really not. So, in doing so, stepping out, we develop our unlimited potentials with more hope and optimism and an open heart. But when this energy is blocked, we might feel unable to actually move forward, like the struggle is real. And there can be, 2 reasons for this. It might be that this journey is inappropriate at this time and we should be delaying it a little bit until certain conditions are met. Or it might mean that we are delaying ourselves with our own inner fear. So if you're satisfied with the journey and you feel like you're in the right direction, like you're on your path, prepare for it carefully. And once you're doing that, go for it. But it really is the baby steps in the journey. But waiting for the journey isn't going to make it easier. It's just fear holding us back, taking like the long drawn out, like we're not grabbing any courage from the chalice, and we're not stepping out boldly. And twisted, if it's twisted energy, this can involve pretending to ourselves that we are moving forward, but the fact is we're taking like a dozen inappropriate paths back or different directions in order to avoid the only truth right in front of us, the right path. So the name of the game really is distraction, misdirection, and both are kind of this false magic that kind of gets us nowhere. It's like we're just stirring the cosmic soup. And at its worst, it's reversed. It can indicate an inappropriate journey, possibly even undesirable ones, a path of destruction or distraction, both ways, for either ourselves or others. But just carefully consider where you are going here and consider your major, like long-term otherworldly goals in life. And just ask yourself how this journey is assisting or helping you to actually move towards your future visions. It is perhaps maybe a distraction or a detour, or it could be a fatal falling off of a cliff. I'm watching him like fall off that little head. Things are happening here. But only we ourselves can decide whether or not we really want to take another step into this direction, and even why. So our mind really is a tool. Set your boundaries in your sphere, and an affirmation to get you on your way. Really be mindful of what your heart feels and believes, and just wait for that inner knowing. You're going to feel it in your gut, that gut sense. So just know that all the puzzle pieces are going to fit together, and they're all going to fall into place magically. When we are committed to restructuring our sphere to bring us happiness and peace and the joy, that authentic joy, the joy molecules, the love beacon, it falls into place. But we have to stay on that thread line. So I would really affirm for today. I affirm I am in every way and in energy, day to day, becoming my authentic greatest potential. So I like to bring in energy and matter. You kind of have to merge the two. And just be grateful for how far that you've actually come, what you have learned, and also what we have yet to learn. I would really just keep it juicy. Say it every day. I am doing great, because you are doing great, right? So InShalla and Ashe. I know this was a long one, but beacon it out there and make it an amazing day. Ding!